I'm Edwin Samuelson. Welcome to CineFiles, the show that allows you to eavesdrop on the conversation of fellow film fanatics. Today we're joined with Mr. Jeff Gallashaw, host of Unfinished Business.
Yes, and it's a pleasure to be here again, Edwin.
I want to thank all of our fans. We have some really good fans on our Facebook discussion wall.
Definitely.
I got to say, I am very impressed with a lot of you guys. You've been very nice. You've been very supportive. A lot of you have taken the time to share the show on your Facebook walls.
Yes, thank you, fans. Those of you that take our links and share them, especially through Twitter, now that we have a Twitter account.
Oh, yes. That
at
just started.
CineFiles TV.
And to plug away, Unfinished Business also has a Twitter page. It's Unfinished B1.
Okay, well, today's topic is the films of Brian De Palma selected works, where we're discussing 4 of his thrillers. The films will be, of course, we'll start out with Sisters. De Palma is a very unusual director in terms of that he has a very large fan base of people who think he's really like a terrific original director. Then there's another a part of his fan base who like what he does but thinks that he rips off everything from Hitchcock and other works.
But see, here's the interesting thing. Even though we're talking about thrillers today, my favorite Brian De Palma films are the films before the thrillers, like Greetings and Hi Mom, which were more like experimental comedies. I enjoyed those a lot more. Not to say I didn't like the thrillers, but those are the ones I have more of an interest in.
When you look at these early films, they are so much different than the path that he would take later, because these are all out like comedies, you know, slicey quirk of life. And that's what makes Sisters, which we'll get into this now, such a surprise. Sisters is his first attempt of trying to do a real Hitchcockian type thriller. It stars Jennifer Salt as a young reporter who uncovers a tale of murder. It has elements of Rear Window, I think would probably be the one that most stands out. It also stars Charles Durning, who's another favorite.
There's a bit of Psycho in there, too.
A thinner Charles Durning, but not a thin Charles Durning.
No. And of course, Margot Kidder in perhaps her best early role in a really good performance. Very good performance. The movie Sisters is a wonderful mindfuck from beginning to end. In fact, I think it's very cleverly shot on a very low budget, and what I love about this is most people say, of course, it's Hitchcock. It is very Hitchcockian. I mean, it's like, oh my God, unbelievably Hitchcock. It's probably the most Hitchcockian film Hitchcock didn't direct, except for one thing, the use of the split screen, which Hitchcock never used. And let me tell you, the use of split screen in this film really is brilliantly used.
What I liked about this film also is that there's a bit of satire and a bit of social commentary with the game show at the beginning. And also, one of the things I surprisingly liked is the whole ending sequence. I don't want to give anything away or spoil anything in the movie, but I thought that was brilliant.
I like Sisters a lot. I think it's being one of his earlier features. It does have that rough around the edges feel to it.
Well, it is
it's
low
not
budget.
A criticism.
It is a little low budget.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of people can stretch a low budget or not. Sometimes it shows. But I enjoy it a lot. I think it has a great kind of final shot, ironic final shot. I like Sisters a lot. It was one of those films I heard about a lot, and then I finally saw it, and I wasn't blown away by it like I wanted to be. But I saw a lot of stuff in there. I was like, okay, De Palma clearly is a talented director. But I do have. I shouldn't get into it now because it's the same criticism I have for his whole like thriller period, where you see it in Sisters. He had a tendency to try to repeat himself and trying to out Hitchcock.
Yeah.
And to the point where there's a fine line between paying tribute and just ripping off.
Well, it doesn't.
And he toes that line very dangerously.
Well, I have to jump in on this one.
Uh-oh.
There is one thing that does not help him, but I can't blame him. I would do the same thing. Well, when you cast Bernard Herrmann as your composer to do the music,
True.
I'm sorry. I think you're kind of going for a Hitchcockian vibe.
My
brilliant score, by the way.
In film school, our film professor told us the story about when he hired Bernard Herrmann to do the soundtrack. I don't know if it was for Sisters. It was something where Bernard Herrmann decided to quit the project. Was it Sisters?
It might have been that one or Obsession.
Okay. And he tried to show, it might have been Obsession, and he tried, and De Palma showed him the footage and tried to tell you, I want you to do it like this. And Herrmann immediately was like, you're no Hitchcock.
I mean, there's worse directors to embrace. I mean, than Hitchcock. I mean, come on.
Well, that was his success.
Don't get me
And so he
started.
tried to like follow up that success with it. It's like M. Night Shyamalan.
Shyamalan.
Shyamalan Ding Dong.
He's expected to do a twist ending or an ironic ending or a Twilight Zone-like ending to every film. So he's like competing with himself, And De Palma was sort of doing that with the Hitchcock thing, or variations of it.
What I love about this film, too, is there's a lot of very unique twists that I like. Of course, Mario Kidder is Canadian. In real life, she plays a French-Canadian actress.
With the accent.
And what's very interesting is that they have an interracial relationship in the movie, which is kind of unusual for that time. I thought was it's a very violent scene. I don't want to give anything away. But
he doesn't hit her.
No, he does not. No, he does not. He actually was on that show, That's My Mama, that actor. I forgot who it was, his name.
I've seen the show.
Yeah, but that's very unique. But what I like too is the performance of William Finley as the doctor husband. He does this really has this very obscure look and weird look in the movie. And I actually talked to him about it when I met him. He looks like a mad scientist from a 30s or 40s, horror film. In fact, he said that was the thing. He has like a little John Waters mustache, and he has a really thick Canadian accent.
I had a little problem with that, actually. I thought it was like a little too. I didn't see. I saw it as kind of campy, kind of.
Well, that's what he said. That's what he was trying to do.
But no offense to William Finley. I don't know you. I have nothing personal against. He already kind of looks a little strange naturally.
The best scene in the movie is this. I don't want to give anything away. Is a scene where Jennifer Salt is hypnotized into seeing what happened to Mario Kidder's character, and it's perhaps I think one of the best directed scenes that Brian De Palma has ever done.
Exactly. And he would repeat that a lot, like with The Fury. There's a whole scene.
If you do it great, you do it again.
It's very similar.
It's his signature.
He tends to repeat themes a lot.
Okay.
But I do like it a lot, and I think the reason why I like it as much as I do is that there's a freshness to the approach that isn't repeated, that gets repeated later on.
I think I understand because it's the first film that De Palma did
it's
like
like
this.
A starting point.
I feel like he's trying to
it's somewhat
so much
not,
copy something. It feels like a more original.
He's copying from other people, but he's not copying himself.
Right.
I think that would be the best way to go about it.
But he has like an interesting spin on it too, where it's definitely his voice, and you get that. Okay, you are paying homage to something, but you're also bringing something else to the table.
Well, De Palma directed a few other films after Sisters, and he hit pay dirt when he did Carrie, so it gave him a little bit more clout. And after Carrie, surprisingly, I believe he did The Fury, and then he went back and started to teach film school at Sarah Lawrence for a while, and he made a movie called Home Movies.
Right.
And then he decided to go and do a low-budget film, which was kind of unusual. He went to Samuel Z. Arkoff, who was the head of AIP, and they produced a film very, very inexpensively called Dressed to Kill. Dressed to Kill stars Angie Dickinson, Keith Gordon, who was an acting student or actually he was a film student in De Palma's film class, Michael Caine, and this is probably the thriller that really is perhaps his most popular of his thrillers. This is the one where we're talking about
the controversy.
The controversy helped this one.
It was very, this is where he's accused of being a misogynist and homophobic and transgender phobic, and all that stuff.
This is my second favorite. It's in its top 3.
Really?
Tied up there. Yeah, the other film would be Phantom of the Paradise, which that's going to be my favorite.
I love Phantom of Paradise.
But this one is a very, very well-made movie. Angie Dickinson plays an older woman who,
older woman.
Well, kind of hot. Because that's what I'm going to get into. Is that she has this very famous shower scene in the beginning of the movie, which is his homage, if you'll call it, to Psycho. And you see this very beautiful body, and it's this great. It's a body double because when you see her get out of the shower, you see shots she's really, really out of shape. And my friends were all saying, "Well, that's obviously because it's a fantasy that she's this beautiful woman, and so it makes sense."
It's interesting. That's the title of another one of his films, Body Double.
Yes, it is.
I think the idea of Body Double came about from all that. I have mixed feelings about Dressed to Kill. I think Dressed to Kill is a very well-made movie. I mean,
I agree.
All of his talent is on display in this film. It's virtuosic filmmaking. It's pure definition of that. And this is where I would say that is just as much like Argento as Hitchcock, in that It's the dream logic. A lot of things happen that's just completely illogical, and you just have to go with it. However, unlike Argento, at least he plays by those rules that he's set up. So when things happen, you suspend your disbelief. It works. He's set up that world, and you believe it's happening within that world. It's not like, I'm just going to do this for the sake of doing this because I want to do a set piece.
Well, the things that he stole from Argento, and I think you agree with me, the killer with the black gloves and the trench coat, the scene in the elevator, of course, is right out of Argento.
Well, he's got a lot of giallo motif, but more specifically, the whole tone and mood of the film, it's like a heightened reality. Because he has stuff going on there where, for example, I'm not giving anything away when I say this, but Dennis Franz, who plays a detective this time, in this one later, he plays another character in Blowout, but in this one he plays a police detective, would not have Nancy Allen's character try to get the phone number of the John, that witnessed the killing with her.
He did himself.
There's no way they would give her the number. The cops can do that. That like little stuff like that. It just didn't make any sense, But this is the world De Palma creates.
Suspension of disbelief.
Right, where detectives would put people in danger.
This is one of my mother's favorite movies, actually. But
really?
Yes, my mother has weird taste. I love you, though.
Well, she has good taste.
Well, to you. I didn't hate this film, but there's something about it. I agree with Eric's point. I like the filmmaking on display, but I really didn't really get into the movie. I admit I saw it later in life, but one of my major, I'm not going to say problems, it's interesting that he's borrowing elements from Hitchcock and Argento, but yet he puts part of his personal life story in the film. And one of the things about Brian De Palma is that he's known for not really talking about himself or his upbringing, but the one element where Keith Gordon's character is trying to catch his father cheating, that's actually from his own life. And like Eric said, it is repeated in the movie Home Movies, played by Keith Gordon again. Like I said, I liked the filmmaking at work, but I really wasn't drawn into this film.
I think I know why. I think I have an idea why.
I am not homophobic, if that is what you're going to say.
No, I would not say that. No, I would not say that. It's a very cold and detached film. The tone is very cold. The film is even shot very, very muted color schemes. It's a very isolated kind of feel.
I would say yes and no to that. I would say that if I had I like Dress to Kill. I wouldn't say that it's a cold, detached film. I think it's a very melodramatic film.
Maybe that's it.
And it's a very like the Pino
Donaggio.
The music is like very. In fact, one of the movies where I'm just like, is that scene where after she's had sex with the guy that picked her up.
Yeah.
And she's going through his desk, and it shows that he has a venereal disease from the health department. And it just like the camera just like slowly dollies in it, and you hear this like melodramatic music. It's like venereal disease.
But that was like one of the scenes I actually liked. I liked the whole chase through the museum and the payoff.
The joke was intentional. I'm sure it was intentional, but I don't think it's so much cold and detached. I think it's this like he was almost going to the place that he goes to with Raising Cain, where it was meant to be this like heightened reality where everything is a little more it's not really logical that a call girl would let this young guy stay at her place, there's like a lot of weird stuff, and there's points where like he actually I think intentionally cheats certain bits. Like there's that whole scene where she's being chased by the killer, and she gets the cab and being followed at that point, and the cabbie helps her elude, whoever's chasing her. And during that entire time, you see Michael Caine trying to talk to someone on the phone. I think it's his wife. He's like, I'm trying to leave a message. I'd really want to speak to her. It's urgent. And I guess that was, De Palma's way of trying to like get you off the scent. They don't want, I don't want to give away the twist if you haven't seen it.
Spoilers.
But it was cheating though, because there was nothing to let you know that this wasn't happening at the same time.
Well, what I love about the film is I do think the actual wrap-up is quite clever. I really like the way that was pulled off. And let's just give credit to the camera work. That scene, Jeff, what you mentioned earlier in the museum is absolutely wonderful. Where the camera tracks her through with the glove.
This is the thing. I really give De Palma a lot of credit, and call it misogyny or whatever. but he really captured in a filmic language of some sort that whole like heightened sense of sexuality, that the excitement that goes with the chase, and all that stuff. That whole sequence actually is my favorite sequence. I think the wrap up's okay. I think that
Did it come as a surprise to you?
No, because I had already seen Psycho. I'm a big mystery buff, so it's really hard to fool me. I kind of guessed it. When I saw the movie for the first time is when Michael Caine's character goes to the asylum to say, I want to talk to that patient. And Donald Margolis, who plays the doctor handling the patient now at the asylum, says to him, I think we need to get together and talk about this.
Is it David Margolis?
Is it David Margolis? I thought it was Donald Margolis. There's a playwright. I can't remember if it's Donald Margolis. Maybe his name. We'll correct this later in editing. But the point is, at that point, I was like, oh, I get it. Okay, spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. But
we have a little flashing screen here.
At that point, I was like, oh, that's right. Michael Caine is Bobby. Michael Caine is this guy that's going around killing people.
Well, just to let you know, that is the voice of William Finley as Bobby.
And by the way, the whole setup is Psycho. You think that what's her name is going to be the main character, and they kill her off within the first act.
Yeah.
Just like they do with Janet.
I never even looked at it that way.
Yes, of course. That's why they cast Andy Dickinson.
It's the same approach. But the ending. I mean, this is where De Palma starts repeating himself.
I know exactly.
It was all a dream. It was all nightmare.
It's Carrie. The ending is Carrie.
Or what you're seeing isn't really happening. That kind of thing. And
that annoyed me. I mean, because the first in Carrie, it works brilliantly because it hasn't been done before. But then when you see it in Dressed to Kill, you're like, at first it comes as a kind of a shock, and you're going, "Oh, brother!" And now it's been repeated in every single fucking.
It's also
movie.
Dragged out really long.
It is.
It should have ended at a certain point. Oh yeah, and they even have the same police scene in a police station at the end of Psycho, and you have the psychiatrist there that explained the whole psychology of what happened there. Exact same thing, but it should have ended there.
Anyway, let's go on to the next film, and the next film is Blowout with John Travolta, and this has become one of has gone on record. Quentin Tarantino said is one of his favorite films of all time, and I think it's one of De Palma's best films as well. It's not in my top 3, but it's a really well-made movie.
One of John Travolta's actually
one of his best performances.
I think it might be his best performance.
I think it would be.
That's the thing. I hadn't seen Blowout in a while, so I rewatched it actually this afternoon before we did this taping, and this is why I like Blowout better than Dressed to Kill. And I understand what De Palma was going for with Dressed to Kill. I totally got that. But Blowout, after this whole succession of heightened reality type thrillers, Blowout is a little more down to earth. And it's interesting to see De Palma try that with this film in terms of the way he directs it. There's not as much flashy camera work as the previous films. Exception of Nancy Allen, who is kind of the weak point in this film for me.
Well, it's because she was
his wife.
His wife.
From my understanding, De Palma didn't originally want to cast her. And the studio was trying to get him to use Olivia Newton-John.
I'd rather use Nancy Allen.
But it was actually, Travolta said, why don't you just use your wife? Because he's like, I used her last time. People are going to accuse me of just constantly giving her work and stuff like that. So, but she's her performance is a little too stagey. It's a little too...
And she's also doing her performance in Dressed to Kill very much again.
Exactly.
She was a smarter character in Dressed to Kill.
Yeah, she's kind of ditzy here.
Character. And this one, they made her dumb and stupid, and you didn't quite understand what Travolta saw in her, kind of thing. They made her a potential love interest, but I don't know. And I thought that she was a little too. She didn't need the accent. Outside of that, I think Blowout is a very good movie. And it's a very toned down film for a De Palma thriller.
It's grittier than his usual.
It's more reality based than Dressed to Kill.
And John Lithgow is amazing.
John Lithgow's always amazing.
He has very few. He has little to almost no dialogue in this, and just little brief moments when he's on the phone. But I think I like the film a lot.
Well, this one rips off, of course, Blow Up.
It rips off 2 films actually.
Blow
The
Up,
Conversation and Blow Up. Most specifically, Blow Up. Not least of all in the title, original, Brian. We're just going to call our film Blow Out. But it's like Blow Up, but with sound. But But the way, I mean, honestly, it is a very well done film, and it's great how they kind of like go into the whole thing about like the use of audio technique, even when the way he like cuts out all those images that the Dennis Franz character was like the sleazy photographer, and then kind of makes a movie out of that and applies the sound to that. It's actually fascinating to watch.
The more behind the scenes.
And let's give
stuff
credit
of
too
how
to
things
Dennis
work.
Franz. He was very good in Dress to Kill. He's even better in Blowout, if you ask me. I think he's really good because he plays this sleazy character quite well, where he's somewhat.
Well, he has a meatier part.
A much meatier part. I love Dennis
He's
Franz.
given a lot more to do, and I think it's an interesting ending.
I love the ending of this film.
I love the ending because it's I don't know what kind. It reminds me a lot of the conversation where you don't know what to make of the ending. Is it bleak where it's awful, or is it okay? It's an ambiguous ending.
First, you would think, okay, they have to impose this backstory on this character, but what makes that backstory aspect of it work is that it wouldn't have worked if De Palma didn't give the movie the ending he gave it. Right? It's a very fatalistic ending. And if it had like a happy ending and stuff like that, then it'd be like another like, okay, Hollywood cliche, he redeemed himself kind of ending. And then it would have been kind of like a little bit of a cliche backstory kind of thing.
After Casualty War was such a bomb, he went back to his roots, and he went back and made a film called Raising Cain, which starred John Lithgow, who, as we've already talked about in Blowout, is a phenomenal actor. And he is the lead in this film, and it has to do with multiple personalities and
child experimentation.
When it came out, it was released in theaters as a serious thriller, and after the preview audiences saw it, they laughed it off the screen. They thought it was hysterical. So then Universal then tried to sell it, believe it or not, as a comedy. Yes, they did. I am not kidding you.
Can I say something though?
Please, my guest.
Go for it.
I always saw it as a black comedy. And in defense of Raising Cain, I think I was one of the few people that liked it.
I liked it.
I actually liked Raising Cain. It is so over the top. It's almost like, Stuart Gordon's approach to H.P. Lovecraft.
I can't believe you mentioned that.
Like
That's a perfect analogy.
This is how Brian De Palma was making fun of Brian De Palma. Now, it should be explained that the film was heavily edited. It was taken out of his control. And there is recently, it was made available online. I think one of our Facebook fans actually posted it to our Facebook group. Scholar,
someone recut the film.
Recut the film to the way to what Brian De Palma's original notes were.
Basically, the film was restructured after it was released, and so he took his original notes and restructured it in the way it was supposed to be. There's no deleted footage; it's just told in a different style.
And it's really interesting. And it's interesting how it changes the whole idea behind the film, because in the Raising Cain that we all know that was released and everything, a lot of it's focused on John Lithgow from the beginning to the end. In the original cut, or the original intention was the whole first act, the point of view is from his wife,
Lolita
Davidovich, and this will she or won't she indulge in this affair with Stephen Bauer?
Yes, from Scarface.
Right. And then there's this thing where you find out, there's that whole scene when he's in the car with like the neighbor,
That's a scene I like a lot.
Okay, that was meant to be the twist. That was meant to be the thing where all of a sudden you find out Lithgow is a psychopath. And then they don't hide from the fact that he's schizophrenic and that, his brother shows up. But what I love about the film, big spoiler, I love how De Palma not only subverts the idea of the anticipated twist ending that we've seen in every single movie that even Brian De Palma's indulged in, but I love how down the line he lets everyone in on the joke. Oh yeah, he's schizophrenic, so he must be all these characters. They're all in his head. No, spoiler, the father is not in his head. The father is an actual real character. That's
the funny scene.
And I think that's like the funniest part. Although the ending is a little overwrought. It's
you fail to mention the funniest thing in the movie is when the father makes his appearance and it's John Lithgow with this really ridiculous outfit. He has the hair and the makeup. He's doing the accent.
Dressed like Michael Caine.
I was looking at it. I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me. What the hell? Because when I saw you when I was younger.
You know what's funny? He was playing both Michael Caine from Dress to Kill and he was doing a Max von Sydow impersonation when he played his father. Well, and you can tell John Lithgow got it. John Lithgow delivers the kind of performance you would see in a black comedy.
I saw it when I was younger. I wish I would have heard all this before I saw it as a kid, because I go in thinking it's a thriller, and I'm just like, what the hell is this? I recognize half the references, like, you know, when the car's going under with the girl in the back trying to get out. It's like, okay, that's kind of like Psycho. But the thing that I guess with this film, first of all, seeing John Lithgow with the toupee as Cain was just automatically had me dying out loud. Lolita Davidovich, it was interesting because she was an actress at the time who was hot, but didn't really get a chance. And then, of course, there's the infamous steady cam shot with no cuts. And I think it was Frances Sternhagen who played with a really over-the-top Southern accent.
Sorry.
That's the one thing I really remember about the film. And the thing that kills me is that at this point, I was really a huge John Lithgow fan. And since I didn't know apparently it was supposed to be a black comedy, this is when I started to doubt him watching this film. Because I was like, what the hell is this film?
I firmly believe the camp is completely intentional.
Because when I saw it, this is, when you're younger, you don't get camp. I saw it, and I was like, I didn't know what to think of it, especially the scene where I'm sorry, oh my God, it's just making me laugh thinking about it. The scene where it's Frances Sternhagen, I believe, has cancer, so he attacks her, and then he takes her wig and dresses up as her and leaves the hospital. That is one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
And the final shot is hilarious.
Oh, yes.
It's a really well done moment. The very final moment, the final
don't spoil
shot
it for the fans.
where she bends down to pick up her kid, and you see Lithgow standing behind her, but he's perfectly coiffed.
Yeah, and he's wearing
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Going back to the world according to Garp.
Oh, God.
So it's really, I think it's a really fun movie.
It's a good campy comedy, I think.
As long as you go into it thinking
best,
that.
No, but I got the joke. I got it. I would say, did you see the re-edit?
No, I've been saving it. I
want to see
if you
the
guys are like diehard De Palma fans, you should really check out the re-edit, because it's really interesting how it kind of, by changing the focus in that first act, how it kind of, it's just interesting how it changes the structure of the film.
The studio hated the film, so they made him re-edit it to tell it in a different way, and that's why it's the way it is now. Not because but De Palma, this cut that did come out was under his choosing.
I mean, for a good chunk of time, Lithgow is not a character in a new edit. Mm-hmm. It's all focused on Davidovich and this, like, is she going to engage in this romance or not?
Well, guys, before I close this, what was your favorite of the films we discussed today? And in fact, what's your favorite De Palma film?
My favorite De Palma film is Hi Mom, but out of the ones we talked about today, Sisters was my favorite.
I would say Sister. I mean, I'm a big fan of Phantom of Paradise. As you know, I have the Phantom of Paradise action figure.
Thankfully, your girlfriend loves you. She loves you.
And yeah, my girlfriend got that for me. But of the films we discussed, I would say Sisters. It's a toss-up between Sisters and Blowout for me.
Well, as everyone knows, if you watch our appearance on Ultimate Film Fanatic, I have a very, I am a huge fan of Brian De Palma's Phantom of Paradise. In fact, I think it's one of my favorite films of all time. Cool. But of the films we discussed today, I would say it's between Sisters and Dressed to Kill. Sisters might be my favorite because I really think it's a really, of the Brian De Palma thrillers, it's the most original because he did steal from a lot of people, but he was able to make it his own, and he wasn't stealing from himself. It's a great film. Anyway, this will bring this show to a close, but please check us out on the Facebook discussion wall.
And subscribe to our Twitter feed.
And
the blog, too.
CineFiles TV.
And please.
And don't forget, check out
CineFiles TV.blogspot.com.
And Unfinished Business.
And Unfinished Business on Twitter and on Facebook, actually.
And we all are on Twitter as well, individually, if you really care about what we have to say outside of CineFiles.
And please,
why you would,
and please subscribe to us and follow us on both of them. You know all that stuff. Just don't IM us, please.
We've embraced the Twitterscape.
Anyway, thank you all, and we will see you soon. I'm Edwin Samuelson.